We're going to dive in and we're going to breathe for a few minutes, but I actually want to do some educational breathing with you as we start, and then we'll get deeper as we go. But let's start with some educational breathing. First things first, if you have the ability to, I'd like for you to lay down on your floor. If you can lay down and listen, this is wonderful. If you can't lay down and listen, you can do it sitting up, just sit upright. But if you can lay down on the floor and still listen, I'd encourage you guys to do that. Just lay down on the floor. And I want you to, as you're laying down, I want you to take a deep breath. And when I say a deep breath, I want it to be a slow, deep breath. And I want you to pay attention to your body. Now, as you take a deep breath, you're going to feel your belly rise. So before you do it, I'm just going to let you know what you're looking for. When you take a deep breath, you're going to feel your belly rise first. When you lay down on the floor, you'll really notice that. So everybody take a deep breath and feel your belly rise. Fill your belly up with air. If you breathe in through your nose or mouth, but if you breathe in through your nose, inflate the belly. Can you do that? Can you feel that? Okay, so take a deep breath and inflate the belly. Now let it out. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take another deep breath. What you're going to do is you're going to inflate the belly, and then it's almost like you're going to take a second breath. It's not going to be a second breath, it's going to be a continuation. So you're going to take a deeper breath, and as you take that deeper breath, what you're going to actually see is your belly's going to deflate and your chest is going to rise. This is because the upper part of your lungs is opening up. So take a very slow, deep breath. You're going to feel your belly rise, and then as you continue the breath, your belly will deflate and your chest will begin to rise. So I want you to do that now. Pay attention to your body. And then let it out. Did y'all feel the difference? Take another one and really feel that. Your belly will rise first, and then as you go deeper, your belly will deflate and your chest will rise. Take another deep breath and feel that. Is anybody having difficulty experiencing what I'm describing?
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you say chest rise, like, so it feels like the belly rises that way.
Uh-huh.
Chest rises that way more.
It rises up. It'll rise. It'll feel like it's moving towards your head, but it kind of puffs up. It causes your back almost to straighten up.
Okay.
So yes, it does feel like it's kind of rising towards your head, but it's rising in general, yeah.
Okay, cool. 'Cause I've read books and I've never been able to ask the question because it's books. But just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so rising doesn't necessarily imply straight up. The chest, because the belly's so fluid like this, you can breathe and you can really inflate the belly and you can feel it inflate, but the chest, when it inflates, it feels a lot of times like it's actually moving up this way as well as out, up and out, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So did everybody get to do that? You can get off the floor. If you've done that a couple times, you can get up off the floor and look at me, or if you want to stay on the floor, you can. It's up to you. But were you able to experience what I was talking about there? Laura? Yeah? I think the Panthers lost today. But the Bears lost on Thursday night, so we're all good, you know. It's just part of playing games. You lose sometimes. Then you forget about it. So your record's perfect all the time. So, if you are able to do that, you are able to begin to not only inflate, most people breathe, and when they're breathing, they're actually only breathing with the bottom portion of their lungs. So most people breathe very shallow breaths. And they just are breathing, so that they're just breathing with their belly. We want to open up when we breathe. When we're doing breath work, when you're working on your beats and stuff. One of the reasons why this is important is because it's actually just good for you. You're actually working out your lungs. Most people have never really breathed that way. So when you're doing breath work, and I want to do another little exercise with you. When you're doing breath work, I want you to breathe Take those deep breaths. You should be able to, even when you're sitting upright, so as you're sitting upright, if you're sitting back, kind of sit upright with me. And I want you to do the same thing that you were doing. You're going to take a deep breath. And this time you're going to almost feel like, because you're not laying down, you might have a more difficult time feeling your belly do that. But I want you to intentionally, as you're sitting upright, push the belly out with the air, and then let the belly sink in, and you'll feel the upper part of your lungs. So we're going to start with the lower half of your lungs, and we're going to go to the upper part of your lungs. So I want you to do the same thing. Take a deep breath with me. Were you able to feel it more in the lower part and upper part? So if you're doing breath work, don't take shallow breaths. You should take deep breaths. When I say take a deep breath, that's what I mean. I mean, use the entirety of your lungs. You're using the lower half of your lungs and the upper half of your lungs, okay? Now I want to work with you on the out breath. But before we work the out breath, I want you to count how deep your in breath is. Count your in breath. So I want you to take it very slow. You're inflating the entirety of the lung. You're taking a deep breath, but I want you to actually count the seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000 in your head. I want you to count the seconds of how deep the breath is. The more you work on this, the deeper, the longer your breath will be. Okay, so I want you to count the seconds as you breathe, and you're going to breathe all the way in until you can't breathe in and until your lungs can't inflate anymore, and that's when you stop the count, okay? All right, so you ready? I want you to count. Do it in your head and count. All right. Somebody talk to me. How many seconds were you able to go just from this little exercise? I mean, it might not be real accurate, but just from this little exercise, how many seconds were you able to go?
I got 11.
11? Okay, that's good. A lot of people, when they first start, they're really only going to get 5, 6, 7 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And they might only get 5 or 6 seconds. As a matter of fact, I know I've... some people that smoke all the time have a really difficult time with this, because their lungs don't have the actual capacity to do this. So if you do smoke, it's fine, but this is actually going to be really good for your lungs one way or another, okay? You can actually raise the depth of that in-breath. Now, I want you to do the same thing. Don't need to count this time, but you're going to go as deep as you can until the lungs are ready to deflate. And when they deflate, I want you to control the breath out. You're going to very slowly let the breath out through your nose or your mouth, whatever works best for you. I like to use my nose for this, but slowly. So if you can get 11 seconds in, now I want you to count how many seconds it is to let go of the breath. Okay, so you're going to control the breath all the way out. Count the seconds. So we're going to take a deep breath together again. We're going to count the in-breath, and then you're going to release and count the out-breath, okay? There's a point in all this, so just do it with me. Everybody ready? Okay. All right. Laura, was your time about the same? Was it similar? Was the out-breath and the in-breath similar?
10. So, yeah.
10 seconds? Okay. Now, counting is one of the things that a lot of times you can do. I'm actually going to introduce something to you that's a little bit easier than counting, that I like better than counting for breath work. I want you to understand, when I say breath work, I'm really talking about breath play. Anything that requires effort is for the mind. It's not for the body. I mean, it's not for who you truly are. What we're talking about is we're doing things for the mind. This is a mindfulness class we're training the mind. We're bringing the mind into unison and into perfection right along with our true nature. So that our mind is working in tandem and it's not self-destructing or working against. How many times do you know you feel something here but your mind's arguing? Your heart is rejoicing in something but your mind detests that very thing. This happens all the time with people. And so what we're doing is we're bringing the mind into a place of openness, and we're learning how to work with the mind so that the mind's not controlling you. This is what actually the Bible means when it talks about self-control. Self-control. The Spirit, self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. The Spirit controls the body. It shouldn't be that the body is controlled by the mind, but the Spirit's controlling the mind, bringing life to the mind and life to the body. Okay? This is what we're doing. This is what we're practicing. So we're going to take a few breaths and we're going to practice the deep breath. But as you do this, what I want you to do is I want you to tonight and going forward this week as you do that, I simply want you to make a statement in your mind, not out loud, but make a statement as you breathe in your mind, okay? Instead of just breathing and trying to let go of all thought, I want you to breathe, and as you breathe in, I want you to, in your mind, say, I'm aware of the breath. And then as you breathe out in your mind, say, I smile to the breath. Smile to the breath. And then as you say, I smile to the breath, smile. It doesn't have to be a big smile, but just a light smile, okay? A smile takes much less energy and effort than a frown, so we're going to smile. So I'm aware of the breath and I smile to the breath. Can you do that? All right, so we're going to take 5 breaths together. If you were in the range of 8 to 10 seconds, let's just say 10 seconds, some of you might not be anywhere near that. It's fine. None of that matters. Some of you might be counting faster than others. None of it matters. It's just a point so that you can kind of get an idea of your breath. Okay? Your lung capacity is your lung capacity. You can raise that lung capacity, but we're still just getting an idea of our breath. Does that make sense? Your lung capacity as you work with your breath, as you truly take deep breaths, will actually increase. But so you're going to smile. You're going to take a deep breath. As you take that deep breath, you're going to say, I'm aware of the breath, and as you breathe out, I smile to the breath. Right? Now, I'm going to tell you why we're doing this and what we're playing with in a minute, but we're going to take 5 deep breaths together. If it's been a 10-second in-breath and a 10-second out-breath, that's 20 seconds for every single breath. If you're taking a breath and it's 20 seconds for every single breath and we do 5 breaths, well, we're working on, what, like 2.5 minutes or something? A minute 40? Is that really what it is, a minute 40? So 5 breaths should be a minute 40, 2 minutes in that range, okay? Okay, so we're going to take a couple minutes, 5 full breaths. Breathe in deep, inflate the belly. Stephanie, you're just joining us. So what I was talking about is when you breathe in deep, when you take the deep breath, you should feel, I had everybody lay down on the ground. You can practice this too. Laying down on the ground, when you breathe in, you feel your belly inflate. It's the lower half of your lungs inflating. And then as you continue the breath, your lower half of the lungs deflate and the upper half inflates. And so you actually feel your belly sink and your chest expand. That's so you both upper half and bottom half are being worked. When most people breathe, they're only using the bottom half. So a shallow breath, just using the bottom half. We're going to take a deep breath. You being in massage therapy, you know all about this, wanting to take deep breaths. When you take a deep breath, we're starting with the lower half. We're taking it slow, and we're opening up the lower half, opening up the top half. And then when you're at your capacity and your lungs are ready to deflate, then you let go of the breath and you control it. Slow breath out. Again, when you breathe in, I'm aware of the breath. When you breathe out, I smile to the breath. Okay, 5 breaths together. You guys ready? Yes? One of you is ready? Okay, 2 of you? Okay, great. That's perfect. All right. All right, here we go. All right, how did that feel? You done? You still going? Now, if you're taking a full breath, you're on breath 3. Kaylee's going hard here. We'll give you time. Finish your 5 breaths. She's doing like 30-second in breaths. She's holding her breath, which don't hold your breath. I'm seeing if I can distract her. All right, you done? All right. It requires no effort to breathe. And it requires no effort to be the authentic you, the true self. Neither one of those things require any real effort. We're being intentional with our breath and we're practicing it. The practice, I want you to recognize all practices are simply for the mind. All practices are for the mind or the body. They are not for your true self. Okay? So the true self is the one animating the practice. True self is animating the practice. Just realize this. It's never been hard to breathe. So when you're practicing breathing, don't make it hard. One of the things that will be helpful for you guys, I've been getting some feedback from some of you, especially some of the newer ones, to breath work, to breathing. And I think it was, I don't know if Nick is on, I see him on the screen, I haven't seen him, but he was talking about doing the beads and he was like, yeah, getting to that 5th bead, you know, it's like, he hadn't been able to get past bead 5, you know, the mind just starts to go. Well, if you can, with every in-breath, take that full in-breath, take the full in-breath, and with that full in-breath in your mind, I'm aware of the breath. I'm aware of the breath. And with that full, slow out breath, I smile to the breath. Now, as you're doing this actually, we're practicing single-mindedness. We're not practicing no-mindedness, we're practicing single-mindedness. So we're practicing bringing our mind down. It's okay that you have thought, but we're gonna have one thought. I'm aware of the breath. I smile to the breath. And so practice doing that as opposed to just counting the breath. Counting the breath, your mind, a lot of people's minds are easier counting the breath, and that's a good place to start. I actually would prefer to say, I'm aware of the breath and I smile to the breath. Does that make sense? So as you say that, that's actually gonna help you, it'll help you a lot begin the practice of breathing. It'll help with the practice. Hopefully you guys have been breathing at least once a day, if not twice a day, practicing that breath. Spending a good 20 minutes. I recommended 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. If you've been practicing for some time and you want to expand upon that, that's wonderful. If you're at a place where you're like, okay, Silas, I've been already breathing like that, and you want to start going to a place of really no-mindedness, where instead of that single-mindedness, this is great too, but you should continue with the breath. Continue with the breath. Sometimes we forget to smile, you know. So I smile to the breath. This is a great practice. I still do it. I still sometimes will say, I was breathing earlier today and I was doing it. I'm aware of the breath and I smile to the breath, you know. And so it's a great practice. If you're practicing the breath work, then play with this. Spend some time with using that little saying, I'm aware of the breath, I smile to the breath in the mind. And see how that works, see how that goes for you. And practice the deep breaths and the slow out breath and the deep in breath. Use all of your lungs, really inflate the lungs. First of all, it's just really good for your lungs to use them. And second of all, it's actually that deep breath is so good for you. It's actually very exhilarating. If you're really taking that deep breath and you're aware of that deep breath, it's very exhilarating. Your head will sometimes start to tingle and you'll feel just really a euphoric kind of feeling. You'll come out of a 20-minute session if you've really been able just to be aware of the breath and smile to the breath. I'm smiling to the breath. I'm enjoying this moment. This isn't hard. This isn't laborsome. I'm enjoying it. you come out of that 20 minutes and you'll feel really refreshed. You should feel really refreshed. It was easy. I wasn't worried about the time. Again, if you have a mindfulness app on your phone, use that. Use a little timer where you're not distracted looking at the clock or looking at the time, where you can just set the time and set apart some sacred space for this. If you have children, do it when they're not home or after they go to bed, or let them know, hey, I'm doing something. Give me 15, 20 minutes. Not that always works, but let them know. So let's try to set apart some sacred space. I encourage families. We don't have the room for it in our house. If we did, we would do it. But I encourage families, like this space here was at one point where this is like a mindfulness space. This is a place of meditation, a place of mindfulness. If you want to just get away and breathe and get peace and quiet, you come into this space. So if you have room in your home to set apart a little area where everybody knows that if you're in that area, you don't bother me. Don't bother people that are in this area. It doesn't matter whether it's the kid, it doesn't matter who it is in that area. If a child, even the children know that they can go there and not be bothered. So if your child's in trouble and they know they did something wrong, they can go to that and it's safe space. So you can't actually chase them into that space as a parent. Children will love it if you tell them that. Like, hey, this is safe space. I can't bother you in that space. But when you're in that space, this is what it's for. So if you've done something, you feel guilty about it, go into that space, breathe, let it go. And you go into that space. And so they actually will start to treat meditation as a really safe place. And so that's a good way to introduce meditation to children as well. So just kind of some ideas. If you have the room to set apart that space, if you don't have the room in your house, set apart some outside space. You can set apart some outside space. Obviously, maybe you won't do it in the snow or rain or whatever, but if you have that, you can set some of that apart. If you live alone, you don't have kids, I will still encourage some sacred space. It could just be a corner in your bedroom, or you have, like some flowers or something, a candle or something, where you can just be a little corner where you're setting that apart, where where I go into this space, and this is my inner sanctum, my sacred space, and where this is space set apart for this purpose, and because it's important to me. Because it's important to my existence, it's important to my mind to have this space. Does that make sense? Okay. True self requires no effort. To be you requires no effort. Matter of fact, to be the most authentic version of you, you have to let go of all thoughts about you. I'm going to say that again, to be the most authentic version of you, you have to let go all the thoughts that you have about you. Because all the thoughts that you have about you are just that, they're thoughts. They're thoughts. Kaylee, what do you look like? How does Kaylee describe what she looks like?
I don't know. I would just be very basic.
Basic? She used the word basic to describe Kaylee. Okay, stop. Laura, unmute yourself. Tell me what Kaylee looks like.
Looks like?
Yeah, what does Kaylee look like? Describe what she looks like.
Well, at first I just want to say, like, gorgeous and hot, but
hot.
What kind of description do you want?
Your description. Don't ask me. I asked you to describe her, and then you're asking me what description. No. Your description. Don't think about it. Just tell me what she looks like. Stop thinking. Start flowing.
You're putting me on the spot.
Okay, so stop thinking. When I put you guys on the spot, I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot to let go of your thoughts, not to think. So don't think, just flow. What does Kaylee look like? Just describe her.
Right now, she's looking like 1,000 falling stars.
Okay, that's
a night sky of 1,000 falling stars.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's awesome. See, I asked Laura because I knew that if she wouldn't think about it for a second, something really poetic and beautiful would come out, because she flows in that sort of thing a lot. Okay, this is great.
We could trade places, and I was going to describe Laura.
Okay, so describe Laura.
I'll I'm not kidding.
No. Now you're thinking too much. I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna have Austin mute you. No thinking.
Alright.
I'll describe Laura.
You'll describe Laura?
2,000 followers.
I'm still better than both of theirs.
Go ahead, Kaylee, you describe Laura.
I think Laura looks like a beautiful pervert.
I love that.
Oh, shoot.
Thank you.
That's the best. That's the best, most authentic description ever. No, I'm kidding. That's amazing. Okay, so rules of the class. There are no rules, but my encouragement to you, the rules of the class are, Kevin, there are no rules. My encouragement to you guys is this: what I'm looking for and what you should be here looking for is authenticity. People spend their entire existence never being authentic. You are here, I want you to be authentic. What does authenticity look like? It means stop thinking about every damn thing you do and start expressing. Okay? So the expression should be beyond just that place of thought. You have lived your entire existence allowing your mind. You've been told and you were taught as children, think before you speak. Think before you do things. Now I'm trying to reverse all that and bring you back to your childhood to say, don't think, just express, because your truest, most authentic nature is perfect love. So I want that perfect love to simply be expressed. Don't worry about what it's going to look like, how it's going to end up, what could end up happening. Just express love. If you're feeling some sort of pressure, or you start worrying, or you start thinking about what that could look like, or what's coming out of my mouth, you're not truly being authentic to the true self. Your mind's taking over. Does this make sense? Mindfulness is about being present in this moment. So what we're doing is we're using the mind to speak, but we're not letting the mind speak for us. I want you to learn and practice using the mind to articulate, to speak, but don't let the mind speak for you. Can't you tell the difference? If I was reading some script, would you be able to tell the difference between that and what you normally experience from me? If I had some sort of scripted outline of what I was going to teach, could you tell the difference?
Yes, because you would stay on one point.
Now that's authenticity. She didn't even think about it. She was just like, yes, because you'd stay on one point. You wouldn't bounce all over the place. Touche. This is very true. Do I normally bounce all over the place? I come back. I normally bring it back around. I don't normally end up in a completely different stratosphere. But the point is, I would rather you be authentic and just really and when I say authentic, I'm not talking about your mind. See, the mind is in an argument, even possibly right now, saying, no, this is the most authentic version of me. What if your mind is incapable of understanding what authenticity looks like for your true nature? What if your true mind has been programmed and has been persuaded to be, what if your mind has been persuaded that this is who you are, what you think of yourself? We asked Kaylee what she looked like. She said basic. I asked Laura what she looks like, 1,000 stars in the night sky falling. Like, those are two very different descriptive things. Kaylee is wrong. Maybe she's right. Laura is wrong. Maybe she's right. Neither one of them are right or wrong about that's perceptional. Kaylee's perception is of being basic is probably the result of many years of thinking something about herself, about the body, and identifying as the body and what she thinks about that body and the face and whatever, basic. Laura sees her, and Laura goes into this poetic place, and hopefully it was clear of thought, because when Laura was thinking about it, she was asking for my definition or my description, and when you just spoke, this poetic thing came out. So you didn't really have to think about it, right? It just came out. Yeah? All right, so when I ask you guys questions, my intent for this class is for you guys to be more authentic. Don't think. I want immediate reaction. I want that immediate reaction. Sometimes it might come from the place of the mind. That's okay. We're bringing the mind into subjection to that spirit. As Paul said in Romans 12, that we're renewing the mind. This is how you This is the transformation of the body happens through the renewing of the mind. If your body is functioning from a mind that has been trained in duality, then your body, you're going to experience the ups and the downs of duality in bodily form. This is why you experience in bodily form stress and anxiety. Does anxiety feel good when you're feeling that in your body? No, it is awful. Anxiety feels awful in your body. Does stress feel good? No, it feels awful. But this is the fruit, this is the result of a mind that is seated in duality. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So what we're doing is we're renewing the mind. Spirit is bringing the mind, self-discipline, self-control, the fruit of the Spirit, bringing the mind, we're training the mind to work in tandem and in flow with Spirit. With Spirit. So my mind is thinking according to what I wanted to think. In other words, my perception is my choice. When someone genuinely looks around them and they see good and evil, they're not making a choice. That's not a choice. They actually believe they are the one, this body, in a dual world of good and evil. They actually believe that. It's not a choice. They feel as if this is reality. Do you realize this? Yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean by the choice of you're choosing to see things as good? Like so in a moment, and this is just me kind of processing it. So in a moment, like I might look at, I don't know, there's not really a good example in this room, but so there's the flowers, and I say they're ugly. Mm-hmm. So I don't actually think, but for example, so the choice would then be to kind of reframe that in my mind? Is that
yes.
what you're saying? Okay.
Because everything that's happening in your mind is perceptional.
Okay.
Right? Everything that's happening in your mind is 100% perceptional, isn't it? Your mind is taking your senses, your smell. You were smelling your hemp milk that you made. I didn't smell it. Your senses were working, and my senses weren't working, but it's perceptional. You could have said it smelled good. I might have said, oh, it smells a little this way or that way. But if I smell it and I go, oh, that's nasty, you realize that you could also choose to take that smell. Oh, I think it smells good. Somebody farts in your presence. Have you ever ripped one that's so rank? Austin has. Let me share this story. We're at King's Dominion. So Beth and myself and Austin took Micah and 3 of his friends to King's Dominion. And so we're at King's Dominion and we go, it's this inside roller coaster where it's all inside. And so we're sitting in line and it's a crowded space. We're sitting in line and all of a sudden everybody goes, oh! I mean, so Austin ripped one. And it was rank. I mean, the entire area lit, like everybody started, everybody that was in our group was making noise, like, oh my God. Austin's laughing. He gets out of line. People fill in the line. He's like, oh crap, I lost my space. But it's this whole, I mean, it was disgusting. Now, I choose to say that it's disgusting because it was funny. But if I thought it was really disgusting, I'm like, daggone it, that pisses me off, that's disgusting. There's a very big difference between those two disgustings, right? Now, some people might have gotten mad about that disgusting. That's their choice. They just don't realize it's their choice. Up until this moment, you might experience something and you're not realizing that you're making the choice to feel bad about something that you could otherwise feel good about. Somebody comes to you. We were having a conversation with Micah the other day, and we were trying to explain to him, like, we were just having a conversation with him, and he was upset about it. And I said, Micah, we're not telling you what to do. We just love you. Like, you can make the choice to be upset with us, or you can realize that we're having this conversation because we love you. We're not telling you what to do. We're just informing you. We're just having a conversation with you. We want you to be aware of some things. Now, it's his choice. What most people do is they make the choice or make an assumption that that somebody's speaking down to them. That why would you speak to me that way? Instead of realizing that maybe that person's speaking to them because they love them. Maybe they're having this conversation because they love you, right? So if you could choose to feel they're talking to me because they love me, or that same person could choose, I can't believe you would say this to me and why you would think that I would do this or that, and get mad. You have the choice. You can get mad or you can feel good. Like, I'm so thankful that you're talking to me because I know you love me. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with me. I've had conversations many, many years ago. I would go and have conversations with my mom, and my mom would always argue just theology and just wanted a very simple mind she has. And I would be like, and I would try to talk to her. She wouldn't listen and she would just interrupt. And I was finally at a point where I was like, you know what, Mom? Thank you. Just thank you for, I know your intent in your heart, even when even if she's speaking in a certain way, even if she's getting upset, I know her heart is that she genuinely loves me. She might not know how to express that all the way. It might be being filtered through a whole bunch of beliefs and religion and all this stuff. But I genuinely know it's still in her mind, it's love, right? You understand? But I could have made a choice. And years and years and years ago, Stephanie, I unknowingly was making the choice to get frustrated by her. Why are you nagging me? In her mind, Janet, it was just she was loving me. But in my mind as a teenager, you're nagging me. Stop nagging me. When I made the choice to realize she's just loving me, all of a sudden, I felt fine. Didn't matter how much she nagged me. You can nag me all you want. I know it's just love. Okay, Mom, thank you for loving me. We don't have to agree at all. She can go on and ramble on and on with her religious spiels. We don't have to agree at all. I can just sit there and sit there. I just go, Mom, I love you. Thank you for loving me. I know we might disagree right now. You might not understand where I'm at and what I'm trying to express, but I just want to tell you thank you for loving me. Now, which one do you think feels better? Which scenario do you think feels better, right? It's obvious, right? It's a choice you're making. You're making a choice as to what thoughts are going through your mind, and therefore making a choice as to what you feel. I teach my children this. Nobody can make you feel bad. Nobody can stress you out. Nobody can anger you. Nobody can do these things to you. When these things happen to you, it is because you are making the choice to feel that way. You are making the choice to feel bad. You are making the choice to be frustrated. You are making the choice to be happy. It's your choice. So to your point, this is all in answer to your question. You, essence, are getting to choose with your mind how you perceive these flowers.
Okay.
If you, as a mind, you would perceive these flowers as ugly or as pretty, based upon personal preference of your past, right? You're bringing your past into this moment. Maybe you had an experience in which pink flowers brought you some sort of, like, pink flowers were associated with some sort of bad memory, and you're just like, yeah, I just don't like them. Like, I think they're ugly. And so you would carry that into this moment, and then you'd be like, those are ugly flowers. But saying those are ugly flowers doesn't feel very good. Seeing these flowers as ugly, it's just like, those are ugly flowers. That doesn't feel very good. But try saying, those are beautiful flowers. Now, would that feel better? Yeah. So you actually get to begin to make that choice. This is a powerful, powerful thing that very few people have realized or been able to recognize, okay? If you can simply realize you get to make the choice of how you feel. You get to choose what you think. You can think these flowers are ugly, or you can think they're beautiful. If you think they're ugly, you're going to have a negative feeling. If you think they're beautiful, you're going to have a positive feeling, and it's your choice. What most people would say is, no, it's not my choice, it's just the way it is. Those are ugly flowers. Or it's just the way it is, those are pretty flowers. No, it's not just the way it is. Everything that happens in your mind is perceptional. So it's functioning in this dual playground. Your singular essence using that mind. And if you are recognizing that you are the singular essence, then you're using the mind and you see good. You see beautiful. When somebody looks and they see an awful accident or a loss of life and they say, that's evil, that's awful, that's bad. I look at it and I say, but it's something beautiful, something good is coming out of this. Like it's okay, it's beautiful. If you get focused on all the negative, it's because you have allowed the mind to see through that dual lens, and you're operating out of that dual lens instead of you, who you truly are, rising up, animating that mind to see singularity, to see through a singular lens of good, of purity. That's what it means to the pure, all things are pure. When you awaken to the purity of who you truly are, everything you see is pure and perfect, even when it doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
This might be stating the obvious, but you can't. So you basically can't make the choice till you realize you can make the choice. Like until you've reached that threshold, you're stuck in the perception.
Yeah. So I teach my kids. So I'm talking to Micah and Riley and Uriah and I mean all of you, but I'm specifically using my kids as an example. I tell them all the time. Do my kids recognize this? In other words, is this just effortlessly manifesting? No.
Yeah.
But there's a moment that when you realize what I'm saying, then all of a sudden it's like, oh. So it might happen in a layered way, in an indirect way. So Micah spent years, remember I told you the story, some of you guys might remember it. When Micah first started going to school, he hated school. He would get off the bus, or we'd pick him up every day, and he hated school. He was down and just frustrated, and I hate school. I'd say, how was school, buddy? I hate it. I don't like going to school. Just miserable. And this went on for a long time. And every day I'd say, how was your day? And so I started just saying, how was your day? And he'd say, it's awful. And I remember having a conversation with Beth, and I was like, whose son is he? Like, he couldn't possibly belong to me. He must be the mailman's or something, because this is like the exact opposite of my existence, right? Like, he's not listening. But so I had this conversation with Beth, and then I started saying, you know what? I'm just going to continually pour into him. So, how was your day? Awful. Janet, he would be like, it's awful. It's horrible. And I would look at him and I would say, well, Micah, that's your choice. If you want it to be awful, it'll be awful. You're making that choice. It's your choice. And then he would just go on whining, and I would just completely just let it all just fly over and just say, it's okay. If that's what you want to feel, that's okay. It's up to you. And that went on for maybe 10 months. And if I get him off the bus one day, finally I get him off the bus, and I say, how was your day? And he goes, I chose today to have a good day, Dad. And I was like, yeah, yes. I get what's sinking in. Now, that's a layered thing. It may not be in every aspect of his existence, but ever since that moment, every single time we pick him up from school, or I say, how was your day? He'd be like, I mean, it was good, Dad. It was good. Like, he's making the choice to have good moments. And now that doesn't necessarily overflow into every aspect of his life, but he's at least making that choice. And it dramatically changed the energy that we experienced from him. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yes, you can't make the choice until you realize that you can make the choice.
That's what I was asking. I was thinking of people at work who maybe are unaware of that choice. So I was kind of trying to think of ways that I can introduce that.
So I tell people all the time. Like, I was literally having this conversation at the club the other night with Anna. I was like, I said, you get to choose how you feel. She was like, what do you mean? How do you choose how you feel? And I want to tell people is, when you realize, the moment you realize that every feeling you've ever experienced is because of a thought that you've had, you begin to choose which thoughts you have more carefully. And just that little seed empowers them to go, you mean I don't have to feel bad? Regardless of whether they understand it, regardless of whether it was realized, that's a seed that's kind of just planted and it will grow up.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of times kind of the way that I word it to people. And so every single one of us are in a different place on this little journey of experiencing these sorts of things. But isn't it empowering to recognize that you get to make the choice of how you feel in every single situation, about every single other person or being that you encounter? You get to make the choice. Nobody's making that for you. I'm so mad at them. Why are you mad? They smacked me in the face. No. Why are you mad? They smacked me in the face. No. You're allowing them to make the choice of how you feel? You're allowing them, another being, to choose for you to be angry? No, that's your choice. You get to choose how you think about them. They smacked me in the face. They're beautiful. They were just doing what they know. They were just doing the way that they were trained, with the way that they thought. They don't know who they are, and so they smacked me in the face. But that's not who they are. People attack me and they come against me all the time. It's not who they are. I'm real quick. That's how they can do that. It's fine. They're not. You can't hurt me. You can't hurt nothing. You can try to hurt something. You can try to hurt the physical form. You can try to hurt the amount of money that comes in. You can try to hurt reputation. But none of those things mean shit to me. So you can't hurt nothing. You know what I'm saying? You can't hurt Mr. Nobody. But that's a choice. How I think about them, is a choice that influences how I feel about them. If I start to entertain negative thoughts about somebody, guess what happens? I feel negative. Years ago, when I was experiencing all kinds of slander and stuff, well, I mean, it still happens all the time, obviously, but every one of us has experienced slander. Janet, have you ever experienced slander? Somebody that says something about you that just isn't really true and it influences the way people feel about you? Yeah, you have, right? Even in your own family. Every single one of us has. Probably within our own family, hurt feels the worst. But I want you to recognize something. When you're having that sort of thing happen, I can say years ago when I was having that sort of thing happen, every once in a while, and this is years ago, but every once in a while I would start to allow my mind to go to this place of, I can't believe, why would they think that way? Why would they say these things about me? And I would begin to allow my mind to go to that place of just questions. Not even a negative statement like, they're an ass, they're jerks. But just question why would they do that? This doesn't make sense. And it would come with negative feelings. And I would just feel really crappy. And I realized something at one point, that even though that was few and far between, even though just every once in a while I would feel those negative feelings, Dean, I realized this, that instead of questioning why they would do that, simply say, I know that, and this is what I've told Beth, her family has all disowned me. I'm not allowed any function. I'm not allowed on their property. Been 100% completely disowned. It doesn't bother me, but it definitely bothers Beth. Okay? And it has bothered her. I'm not saying it does bother her, but it has.
Get that straight.
Yes, I apologize. But, so it has bothered her in the past. But what I've told her many, many times is this. You know what? They're just doing what they think is right. They're beautiful. They're awesome. They're just doing what they've been trained to do, what they think is right. So instead of questioning why they would do it, I just go, you know what? They genuinely think that this is love, that cutting this person off, disowning this person is love, and they genuinely believe that that's what's best for me and for. They genuinely believe that. Like, that's awesome. Look at how awesome they are. To go to those kind of extremes to love somebody is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for loving me enough to just try to kill me. Thank you. That's so sweet of you. But see, you have the choice. There's a point, now my mind is at a point, has been trained to the point where it doesn't go to those negative places ever. So it's automatically goes to that place. So even when the closest family members say things, my mind's immediately in that place of, my mind thinks positive thoughts about them. This is who they are. And so when you begin to question, so you guys don't question, choose. This is a mindfulness class. You have the opportunity each and every day with different situations you're in to question or choose. And when I say question, I mean you're just letting your mind kind of randomly sort through facts and information, and then it creates certain feelings in your body. You can either do that or you can choose what to think. No, this is who they truly are. Even if they're absolutely outright to get you. You know what? They just don't know who they are. My baseline would be this. Man, they just don't know who they are. Well, that person is like a serial killer. He's killed 20 people. He just doesn't know who he is, man. It's like, he's a good boy. And people look at me like I'm insane. But he's a good boy. You know, like Adolf Hitler. So good. So good. My God, he just needed somebody to nibble on his little bunghole. He just needed it. You know, he's so good. Bunghole, belly button, life force out of your belly. Come on, don't get your minds out of the gutter. He's so good. Huh?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, good gosh.
What'd she say?
I don't know. I can only imagine. Just gonna move on. So, but you are you following me? Are you tracking with me right now? You have the choice. When you realize that you have the choice of what you think, everything will begin to change energetically for you. Everything will begin to change energetically for you. If your spouse or your life partner or somebody is frustrated and they're angry and they start to go off on you, you have the choice. You can either respond, why would you say that? Why are you raising your voice at me? Why are you getting, you can respond and kind of get defensive, or you can just choose to think, you know what, they love me, that's where they are, this is where they are, and you can just sit and receive it and gently and peacefully respond because you know that you love them and you're going to display love to them. It's your choice. And they can be sitting there angry and irate, and you can just be full of peace. This is what Jesus taught, isn't it? He said when somebody comes and mugs you and decides they're going to take your wallet and all the money that you have on your person, don't just give them your wallet, but take your clothes off your back and give that to them too. It reminds me of the story of that Zen master who lived in a hut up on the mountain, and a criminal came to his hut and wandered upon his hut as he was hiking through the mountain, wandered upon his hut. And so he broke into the hut and he was like, well, there's nothing really in here to take. And so he got frustrated. There wasn't really anything in there to take, but he was like, there's no possessions really in here worth taking. And as he's leaving, the Zen master walked in and catches him, in his house. And he's like, before you go, please take this with you for your journey. And he just derobes in front of him and he hands him his clothes. And the criminal sunk his head down and felt so ashamed that he was trying to rob from a man that would give him everything. And then as the criminal left with his head hung and left, the Zen master looked up into the night sky and saw the moon and said, oh, I wish how I could have given him the moon. Jesus said, if your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat, He's thirsty, give him water to drink. We can only do this when we recognize that there is no enemy. Your enemy is only your enemy because you think they're your enemy. When you realize that there is no enemy. Your enemy is only your enemy because you haven't realized that you're one. You have no enemy. We've lived in a culture that continually tries to have enemies. We have God and we have Satan. We have heaven and we have hell. We live in a culture, in a society, we live in a place, in a time when people are very dualistic. This is how they perceive everything. When you simply can recognize that there is no true enemy, your enemy is only your enemy because you haven't realized that we are one. If there's one spirit, then in some way you're fighting against yourself. Would you blow up yourself? Would you punch yourself? Would you attack yourself? Would you slander yourself? Would you fight against yourself? Would you sue yourself? No. You wouldn't. So this is a practice of mindfulness. How you feel is a practice of mindfulness. Now, one of two things can happen. You can simply realize what you are and who you are, and your mind can quickly conform to this reality. And sometimes it takes a little time because your mind wants to go back. You can realize who you are, like, I know I'm not that, but I'm still feeling really shitty about this thing. I still feel really down or condemned about this thing. That's when mindfulness comes in. Practice mindfulness. Breathe, clear your mind. I'm aware of the breath. I smile to the breath, and then I get to choose my thoughts and how I feel, and go into your mind and actually change your thoughts. Some of you are having bad thoughts about yourself, like I'm stressed out, I'm anxious. Those are thoughts that you're having. Thoughts that you're having that are producing stress, that are producing anxiety, thoughts about situations that are producing anxiety. You get to choose how you think about a certain situation. If it's creating anxiety, change that by going in, seeing that situation in your mind, and change the way you think about it. Does this make sense to you? This is where the creative process is so beautiful. You are spirit animating a body. You're playing in a body and a mind. You might as well learn how to use it appropriately. This is what mindfulness is all about. It is the art of touching life deeply and intimately in every moment. You cannot touch life deeply while you're pissed off at your neighbor because their dog shit in your yard. You know, you're not touching life deeply. You're all irate because that dog took a dump in your yard. Now you're having to clean it up. Or you could just think really positively, like, I'm so glad that awesome dog came over into my yard. I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy that I get to clean that up. I'm so thankful that I get to do this for my neighbor. It's your choice. It's your choice. This makes sense. This is really simple, and yet it's very profound, isn't it? It's very simple, and yet, how many people do you know that live in this way? Right? So while all things that are really good are really simple, it's very simple when you realize that you get to decide what you think about something, and therefore decide how you feel about something, or someone, or situation, or whatever. Then you change. I could not tell you the last bad feeling, bad moment I had. Maybe somebody else could tell me when that was, but I don't remember it. Right? It's a choice. It's a choice. And trust me when I tell you, I have people continually coming up to me and sharing bad things, negative things with me. And it's a choice. I'm always spinning it. Always spinning it. You know what? Nah, Jeffrey Dahmer, he's a good boy, man. Come on, get out of here. Get out of here, man. You said Jeffrey Dahmer was evil? No, bro. Like Jeffrey, he was a good boy. He just didn't realize it, man. And guess what? And so I've been having this conversation for years and years and years, Dean, within the Christian community. Because the Christian community, even those that are within the gray circles, would say that there's just like good, but then they see certain things still as evil and as bad. And so they're like, yeah, man, like it's all good. Like God's grace is so sufficient and His grace is good for everyone. And we all are partakers of this one thing, and yet you're evil. And it doesn't compute. And I would be like, no. And they've said many times that I'm advocating sin and all kinds of other things. So when they say that you're advocating sin, what they're actually saying is, I live in a double world, in a dual world, where there's sin and there's righteousness. I'm a good boy. I don't practice those sinful things. You're a bad girl or a bad boy. You practice those things. That's not singularity. That's not a grace situation at all. It's just we're using the word grace theologically. There's an enormous difference between those two things. Do you guys comprehend what I'm saying to you right now? Grace says, it doesn't matter what you've done, you're included in me. Jeffrey Dahmer, you're included in me, we're one. That's grace. Grace says, Jeffrey Dahmer, you are as much in heaven as I am, but maybe you're not conscious of it. So how does one become conscious of who they really are? If you are saying you're bad, you're evil, they will only be conscious of bad and evil. But if enough people start saying, you know what, you're not bad, you're not evil, you're good, then they become conscious that they're good. If you tell a child you're bad enough, you're a bad boy, you know what? By the time they're a teenager, they just believe they're a bad boy. This is just how I am. This is what I do. But if you tell a child they're good, they get older, and no matter what they do, they feel like they're just good. They're innately good. And so their actions, what they manifest is what they're conscious of. They're conscious that they're good. If somebody is conscious that they're bad, their actions aren't negative typically. Does that make sense to you? So if we're going to change the way the world is, you have to change the way you see the world. The way you want the world to look is the way you need to see the world. If you want the world to look pure and holy and good, then see the world as pure, holy, and good. If you want the world to look ugly, then see the world as ugly. It's up to you. It's your choice. This is called mindfulness. All right? You guys tracking with me? So this isn't just to throw out all that theological BS right now. It's really quite simple. How you want to see the world is the way you need to see the world. Is Jeffrey Dahmer a good boy or is he a bad boy? Is he even, I don't even know if that guy's still alive or that body's still alive, but is he a good boy or a bad boy? Y'all all know who Jeffrey Dahmer is, right? Am I thinking right? He's a serial killer, right?
I know he eats people.
Did Jeffrey Dahmer eat people? And help me out. He ate people. Okay, Jeffrey Dahmer ate people. Is Jeffrey Dahmer a good boy? Forget was. Is he a good boy?
He was a good boy because he used this drug called G, and it's very intoxicating. And if you overdo it, it knocks you out. So from what I understand, he used this drug on these girls, and then he started cutting on them and all that.
Yeah, so he's so good. He's a good boy. He just had different practices than you. He just cut people up and ate them instead of like playing chess with them. Like, it was just a different thing. Like, he enjoyed doing different things than you, but he's a good boy. He's good.
Not really. I mean, I enjoy a little bit of G, but not too much.
You know what I'm saying. You're being a comedian. He's good. It's your perspective. Now, the vast majority of the world would say Jeffrey Dahmer's not a good guy, right? Or was. Are you with me? And if you say somebody's not good enough, they'll manifest that negativity. So how do you see them? Is who Jeffrey Dahmer is, his past or his actions? Do the actions make you what you are? No. Your actions do not make you what you are. What you are is innate. It's spirit. It's consciousness. It's life. It's love. This is what you are. Your actions are the result of what you are mentally conscious of. So the independent consciousness in that bodily form. If you're conscious of something in that bodily form, those are the manifestations of that body. But that body is not you. I'm not making excuses for people's actions. Don't hear that. People are still going to have consequences. Like, that body's still going to have consequences to the actions. If those actions affect or hurt someone else, they'll still have consequences, won't they? Yeah. I'm not saying that there's no consequences. What I'm saying is this is not who you truly are. When we realize who we truly are, we see ourself, that I was not my actions, that I'm not my past, that I'm not any of those things, then all of a sudden you get to see the new slate, the new life, the new moment, and you get to start manifesting and expressing that way. And then when you live in that place, your mind begins to perceive everyone else and through that same lens. You will always see others through the lens that you see yourself through. You need to recognize that. You'll always see others. When I hear people go, man, they're beautiful. I see beautiful people everywhere. That's because they're seeing who they truly are. They're able to begin to embrace and accept themselves, their own nature, their true nature. You understand? And even the body that they're animating and manifesting in. So I'm going to slow down right there. And I want to talk about your body for a minute. And I want to talk about your homework from last week. And I want to go a little bit deeper in that. Is that okay? Hopefully some of you guys practiced that homework. I don't know if you did. I'm Beth. Beth enjoyed her homework.
Can you just briefly say the homework just to catch me up?
Yeah. So the homework, there was 2 homework assignments. It was the breathing and it was the touch. It was the sensual touch. It was either find a partner, a lover, a partner, pay for a massage, whatever, and you were to receive touch, to breathe and be present in the touch and just receive touch. And then also the goal was to, if you have a lover or partner, also give touch to them and really feel love and intentionality with all touch, and really touch every square inch, enjoy every square inch of your partner, your lover, or whoever you're working with, their body, multiple people. I don't care what that looks like. If you want a person under each hand, you can do that. But intentionality, love, and really express that love to them, touch them. If you don't have a partner, your homework was to do it to yourself, to both feel and touch your own body, and to just enjoy your body in that way. So, Jessica.
Okay, so Nick works really late sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then he comes home and tries to touch me, and I'm just so tired. I'm like, leave me alone. And I didn't actually believe him that this was part of his class at first. I was like, you're making this up. Leave me alone. So we kind of did away with that. But
that's okay.
I don't know if he should bring it back or not. He's going to start working only till 11.
That's
so that's
good.
not too bad. But when you get off at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm just not game for that.
Yeah. Is he with you right now or no?
No, he had to work tonight, so he told me to get on here and listen.
Awesome.
So
well, I'm glad you did.
Tell him about his homework.
I'm glad you did. First of all, yes, the senses are an enormous part of mindfulness, and they're an enormous part of being present. So this is what this is all about. I want you to recognize if you don't understand some of the reasons why I might be having you do something, ask. Don't blindly do something if you feel weird about it. Ask. There's a reason in all the madness, even if I don't explain it. I have some strange things that I might do or have you do or different, there is an absolute reason. One of the reasons we're doing it with touch right now is because if you can't touch the moment, you have to be in the moment. Your body, you are the presence that is filling the body. But the body and the mind are seldom in the same place. The mind is always in the past or in the future. For most people, it's always in the past or in the future. So when you talk to somebody, they're always talking about what they did do past or what they're about to do. But they're very seldom ever in the moment. They're like, whoa, this moment's so intense with you right now. That's why people get so weirded out when you look them in the eyes. I was at a club a couple nights ago, whenever it was, another night, last night, 2 nights ago, whenever it was. And only one lady would look me in the eyes. One girl would look me in the eyes. Everybody else was just so, and I'm like, I'm here. Be with me, I'm here. And they were just so into themselves. I'm like, just go be into yourself. I'm here, be with me. And people are so weirded out by being with somebody that's really present. They don't know what to do with that. They're like always past, always future, but never present. So the body and the mind. So one of the ways that we can get in touch with this moment is when we place all of our attention mentally and all of our attention physically into one thing. So I had everybody the other week just touch their arm or touch your partner. Touch, but be in that touch. Feel it as the giver or as the receiver. Stephanie knows all about this. She's a massage therapist. There is an enormous difference between if you're just kind of mindlessly going through a massage, which I'm sure you've done many times, or really intentionally, you're in the massage and you're really intentionally giving yourself and giving your energy to that massage. Now, from the perspective of the massage therapist, the giver of that touch, is there an enormous difference between those two things? I can't hear you. I have no volume on your end. Oh, there, I hear you now. I can hear you now. I said, is there a difference from your end, being a professional massage therapist, this is what you do as a living, how different is it for you when you kind of have gone through those motions in the past where you're just kind of mindlessly just giving the massage, or when you're really intentional to release energy and love into your client? How different is your experience? How different are those two things? I lost you again. I can't hear you. Maybe I can hear you when you touch the computer. Yeah, I can hear your line is. I think your line's messed up. I can hear you now.
Okay. It's there's a huge difference, and that's I don't know if it's probably from being in this class, but I make it a point to be extremely present with my client, and they know it.
Yeah.
They feel it. It's a huge difference.
So the difference, if you're thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch, and you're like, lunch is next. Am I going to eat Subway? Am I going to get a salad? And you're like rubbing them, or you're in it. You're touching them, and you're in it, and you're feeling. There's gotta be. I've never been a massage therapist. I've given massage, but I've never been. But I tell you right now, there's an enormous difference if I'm touching somebody or hugging somebody, and if I'm thinking about something else, or if I'm really in it. There's an enormous difference. Most people have never made love. They've only had sex. That is a whole different thing. That's the difference in intentionality and releasing something. Love And making love doesn't even have to be having sex. It doesn't have to have, you don't have to have sexual intercourse to make love. Hear what I'm saying right now. If your mind's going to a place of twisting, and I'm going to talk about, listen, we're just week 2 of this. So, just recognize we're going to have, it's just going to get cooler, guys. So, we're just starting this shit. So, recognize with me that if you can be present, I'm answering Jessica's question, if you can truly be present in your moment and with touch. Well, at 2 a.m., you're getting woke up in the morning, you get to choose what you think about that. If I were you, I would intentionally set aside time. So what Beth and I did, I was lucky enough to get to practice this with her, and she was lucky enough to get to practice this with me. I didn't practice with Austin. I guess I could have, but I practiced with Beth. If you want somebody to touch, you can. But you got to touch every square inch of me.
I'm busy this week.
Huh?
I said I'm busy this week.
He's busy this week, he said. But the... Austin! He's busy this week. Man, you forget some of the things we've been through together. When you're mindless, you don't even think about that. So anyway, okay, back on point. You distracted me with that. Set aside, Beth kind of at one point earlier this week was like, we need to do our homework or whatever. And I was like, well, I want to set aside time for that. We need to make sure that there's time where there's no rush, where I can take the time and go through these things with you, and where we can really do it. And we set aside time to do it. And Beth loved her homework this week. So if you guys did your homework, whether it was with yourself, or whether it was with like a lover or a partner, or whether you paid a prostitute, I don't know. But you can pay a prostitute and not have sex with her. You don't have, you can pay for touch. It's okay. Whatever you did, if you didn't enjoy it, you probably weren't being mindful. Okay, so let's be mindful. You're being in one place, whether that's touching yourself, and enjoy that touch. Feel the touch and be mindful of the touch as you touch yourself or a partner, a lover, whatever, okay? So the point was to be very mindful of that. I want to take you a little bit deeper into that tonight. Go ahead, Kevin, before I do that.
Yeah, it's amazing because this week I did the assignment and I didn't even correlate that I was doing the assignment because I went out on a date and we went to a movie, and there was one other couple in the movie theater. It didn't matter though if there were other couples there, but anyway, I was holding hands with him, and just a natural thing, and he really loved it. I mean, and come to think of it, well, there's two main issues here. He really needed that touch.
Yeah.
He's kind of like bipolar, and he just melted. He responded to it so well, and I touched his leg and his arm, and it just flowed very nicely, not awkward at all. So there was a great benefit for him to get that attention. And then on my side, I just realized tonight through our talking that's the first time ever in my entire life, I think, that I held hands with someone in a movie theater. Huh. Talk about like, I mean, it's amazing. It's like a rebirth of something you do when you're a teenager that I never did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I never did it, throughout my life. I had a lot of touch in other ways, sometimes sexual in other ways, but this was so beautiful because it was in that setting, and it was a connection while the movie was playing, and we reacted very much the same as we were holding the hands with what was going on in the movie. Our response was very similar, and we reacted freely to our emotions. It was really beautiful.
Awesome. That's great. That's awesome. And you know what? These things, the more you practice these things, the more even just simple touch becomes intimate. That's why I said you can make love without it doesn't even have to be sexual to make love. We've confused the two. We've confused those two things dramatically. And we live in a culture that is over-sexed and loved. Oversexed and underloved. The two can be combined beautifully. It can be an absolutely beautiful thing. And there's a time and a place for just sex, I guess. But the point is that, so I would ask Beth, how different was being, I'll ask you since I did that with you, how different was being touched in that way? How much more intimate did that feel than if you were just being touched physically in a sexual act? How different was it?
I mean, it was crazy different.
Okay.
I mean, it was something that, out of being married to you for 18 years, I don't think I've ever been touched like that.
Yes, you have. You might not been as aware.
No, I didn't receive
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. So, but the difference was there was no sexual. There was. Now I'll be completely honest. The goal is when you're doing this, you're not trying to have sex with your partner or your lover or whoever it is that you're working with. This is not the goal. But you're supposed to be touched. Now, one of the things that we've been very afraid of in our culture is physicality, right? Since sensuality is frowned upon, physicality, all of this stuff, like people are afraid to talk about these things. Now, when I was touching Beth, I touched every part of her body. This is a worship. This is an experience of worship. But there was no goal to bring her to orgasm, and yet she still orgasmed. There was no goal in that. There was no point. It wasn't like I was overstimulating her sexual organs or anything like that. That was not the point. It was just, it was a touch of the whole body, and it was so sensual and it was so electrifying for her that she still came to a place of orgasm. And she was like, I didn't know if I broke, when we got done, I didn't know if I broke the rules. I was trying to, so in some ways she was even not receiving it all the way. She was even struggling against it. Like, I didn't know if I broke the rules. I was like, no, there was no rules. It's fine if you orgasm. But that's not the point. We're not trying to bring you to that point. That's not the point. You understand? The point is to receive the touch and to feel it and to give it, to share in it, to feel it and to give it, to be present. You're breathing through it. You're truly bringing your mind and your body into the same place. You're not thinking about what's next. If you're on the receiving end, you're feeling every touch, every stroke, and breathing through it, absorbed into it. You're not thinking about the football game or what you're going to eat later or your kids or whatever's going on. You're feeling it. If you're the giver, you're not thinking about other things. You're giving all of your being to that touch. And what this practice, if you are giving it to yourself, the same thing, feel and receive, give it to yourself all at the same time. Touch every part of you. And we're learning what it means to be present, mind and body in the same place, and we're learning to let go of shame associated with the body. Your body is beautiful, your body is perfect. We're learning to let go of shame of things like orgasm. There is no shame in what is completely natural. It is completely natural. It's a gift. You animate this body. That's a very pleasurable thing to the body, and we live in a culture that frowns upon pleasurable things for the body. Like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should avoid it because God wants you to be miserable. No, this is not true. And so I want to just kind of go through this practice with you, but I want to take it to the next level if we can. I just want to, and then we're going to kind of wrap up and open up for some questions. I want you to, if you have a partner, if you don't have a partner, find a mirror. But if you have a partner, I want you to sit with your partner. I did this with Beth already because I wasn't going to do it any other way. I want you to sit with your partner, get in a meditative position. I want you to sit with your partner, and I just want you to take some intentional breaths together. You're going to breathe in, and again, it can be many partners. It doesn't have to be one partner that you're doing this with. It can be a significant other. It can be a lover. It can be a friend. It can be a stranger. I don't care who you're doing it with, but they need to know what you're doing. You know, if you're going to practice this fully like I'm talking about, do it in this setting where you really carve out some sacred space to do this. This is a really powerful time. This is meant to be a really powerful, intimate time. Intimacy is not meant to be reserved for one person. Intimacy can be with every human being on the face of the planet. The only reason why we think it's reserved for one person is because we've grown up in a culture that's afraid of intimacy. Intimacy doesn't even have to be about sex, or it can absolutely be about sex. So whatever concept you have of these things, please let it go and hold it loosely. Don't assume that I'm talking about it in the same way that you think about it, okay? And if you have questions, that's when you need to bring them up. Well, what do you mean by this? Because I've always thought about this as that. Ask. I'm probably not talking about it in the same way that you are. This is why I'm trying to bring clarification as I go. So you're going to sit with your partner. If your partner is not a part of this class, you're going to have to guide them through it. So, hey, we're doing this. I'm doing this. This is part of my homework. This is an experience. This is something I want to do with you. And so I want to do this. It's going to be a really pleasurable thing, and kind of guide them through it the same way that I'm guiding you through it. You're going to sit with your partner, and you're just going to look. You're going to close your eyes before them. Take about 5 deep breaths. Take your time. Take about 5 really deep breaths and clear your mind. I'm aware of the breath. I smile to the breath. Just clear your mind completely. You're not thinking. When I first sat down with Beth, even her, we've been together for years, and she got all like giggly and stuff. No, I want it to be an intimate setting. You're clearing your mind. So take the time, breathe, take some deep breaths, clear your mind completely. And then with some light touch on each other's legs or holding hands or whatever, just look into one another's eyes. Do some soul gazing. Spend about 5 minutes. If you have a timer, time it for 5 minutes. Set your timer, set your mindfulness app. I use the mindfulness app. Set it for about 5 minutes, or and just soul gaze. Just look into one another's eyes for about 5 minutes. Don't see, if it's somebody that you know really well, don't see the one you know really well. That's not the true self. See their divine being. See beyond the person. Really look into them. This is what soul gazing is all about. If you're doing this by yourself, sit in front of a mirror. Take those 5 intentional breaths, then open your eyes and soul gaze into your own eyes. If you don't have a partner, you don't have enough money, I guarantee you, I promise you, you could pay somebody to do it. You could pay a prostitute, they will do it with you. They will go through the whole motions. If you pay somebody, I'm being for real. Johnny's laughing. I'm being absolutely honest. You pay somebody, you can pay them to do other things other than sexual services. You realize that? Like, you can pay somebody to do these things, and regardless of whether or not they have all the same intent, your intent can be, you can give them the time of their life. Like, they can experience love for the first time that doesn't even have to be sexual. Okay, so I'm just saying that there are options. I don't know how much that would cost. I've never done it. I'm just saying it depends upon where you live, I guess. But there are options. But doing it with yourself is absolutely beautiful too. I honestly think you should probably all do it with yourself at least once this week. Just do it with yourself. Sit, stare into the mirror, take some breaths, spend 5 minutes soul gazing into your partner's eyes. Do this once this week by yourself, every one of you. Stare into your own eyes. Soul gaze for 5 minutes. Just stare into your own eyes. And then you're going to set your mindfulness app for 20 minutes. If the gong goes off, and then with your partner, you're going to spend, if I set my mindfulness app for 20 minutes and it gongs once at 10 minutes. So I had Beth lay on her stomach. I want to worship every square inch of her. So you're wanting to worship every square inch of your partner's body in this place, or of your own self. And so you're taking that 10 minutes to do one side, the app goes off, she turns over, and I did the other side. This is not like a massage, but you can massage them to whatever's flowing, whatever you're feeling. If it's light touch, if it's harder touch, if it's more, whatever you're feeling. There's no laws or restrictions or rules associated with this. Your only purpose in giving the touch is feeling the love, seeing who they really are, feeling love, and really releasing that as you're experiencing this other being that's with you. Okay? If you're doing it with yourself, you look into the mirror and literally I want you to touch every part of your body that you can touch, maybe parts of your back you can't get to, but really feel it. Feel the touch. Enjoy all of yourself, from your sexual organs to your entire head, every part of your own body. If you're doing it with your partner, the same thing is true. Realize if you're doing it with a partner, you might get horny or whatever, and then you're trying to get going. This is not the point. The point is to be mindful and really release love and energy and all of that into your partner, okay? Does this make sense? But I want you to start with 5 intentional breaths and then 5 minutes of soul gazing, and then go into it. When you're done, I want you to again sit before one another and just kind of decompress. Sit, you're naked. Both the partner, the giver and the receiver should be fully unclothed. We're taking off, I don't care if it's your best friend you're doing it with or a stranger. We're taking off, we're stepping out from behind the bush we've been hiding behind. You're completely unclothed, so you're vulnerable. You're sitting before your partner, the one that's giving or receiving. You're fully naked. You're breathing. You're doing the same thing that you did when you started, but now you're kind of decompressing. You're breathing while looking into one another's eyes. Take 5 deep breaths and then close up the session. Walk away from the session. Okay? Hug it out or whatever, and then move on and go on. If you want to you might need to take some, if you're the giver and your partner's also going to be the giver the next time, you might want to take some time in between sessions, because it might be a bit much if you go right over into the giving stage. Okay, you might want to take some time between sessions. Does this make sense? Is there any questions about your own work? Stephanie, this makes perfect sense to Stephanie. There's no questions. Okay, does anybody feel awkward or weird about this? Kaylee, we know you don't.
I was gonna say Johnny can pay me.
Oh shoot. Johnny, you can pay me too. No, if you have, trust me when I tell you, if this makes you feel weird and you're not willing to be vulnerable, I told you in the last week's class, like vulnerability, especially for those that are in the mentorship, you might as well get used to being very vulnerable. In this mindfulness class, we're going to have a lot of things that are going to be really basic breathing exercises and practices of being present. And I'm going to get into all kinds of things that feel very spiritual. But there's also, you understand, mindfulness is about the body and mind. This is not just about meditating. It's about the body and mind. And so if this makes you feel vulnerable, I'm encouraging you to step out from behind the thing you're hiding behind that is causing the insecurity, and talk to me about it. If you just want to set up a one-on-one session, set up a one-on-one session with me so that you can talk about your insecurities, your fears, whatever's going on. You don't have to do these things to be a part of the class. If you're just like, that's not something I want to do, you can still be a part of the class. Every week is going to be different. But I want to clarify, this is not a sexual activity. We'll have room for those activities later. This is not that. So if you're like, oh, that's a relief, this isn't a sexual activity, don't be so relieved. That will come later. Like, you will have homework that involves the stimulus of your sexual organs. But that's a much later thing, because the point is, the vast majority of you that have experienced sex, I think probably every one of you has in this class, have not made love. Most of you have never made love. If you have, I'm so excited that you have. But to really make love requires really 2 parties to be on the same page. You can make love to another person and that person is not making love to you. So some of you have made love to somebody, really been in it, just really giving yourself. But I want to clarify this. If you're having sex with somebody and you think they're yours, you haven't made love. Like, if you're mine, you're not making love. And Beth and I can tell you, like, there's been a lot of points and times in our relationship where I can tell you where it's like, I've literally had the conversation. I'm like, listen, our relationship is just about sex. Like, you want to have sex with me all the time, but I want something more than that. Right? I've had this conversation. I'm not going to ask you guys to be vulnerable, and I'm not. You guys know I'm open book. I'll talk about anything, and I'll share anything. I will share absolutely anything. And we've had many moments in our experience, in those experiences. Now, there's been lots of love-making moments, but there's been also just a lot of sex. And sex is fun, but it's empty. It doesn't matter whether that's with your husband, your wife, your lover, or a stranger. Sex is empty in compare. Once you've made love, sex feels good, but it's just empty. It's just get in, get out, get off. It's not like morning, noon, and night. You know, it's not. That was a joke. Nobody laughed, but have you never seen Why Him? Morning, noon, and night. Okay, never mind. If you've never seen Why Him, that's homework. Go see Why Him. You'll understand the joke. But that's a very different thing. So I'm introducing to you guys something very intimate. And when I say this isn't sexual, you could literally do this, doesn't matter what your sexual preference or orientation, with somebody of the same sex or opposite sex. If you're attracted to the same sex, you could do it with the opposite sex, and it would be absolutely fine and wonderful. If you're attracted to the opposite sex, you could do it with. I could do it with Johnny. I do not want to have sex with Johnny, but I could worship his body because he is beautiful. He is divine. He is, that you understand what I'm saying. It would not be sexual at all.
Johnny said he would legit pay you to do it.
It would be the time of your life. But you understand what I'm saying. There's an enormous difference between sensuality, love, and sexuality. My heart's desire for the whole world would be that every sexual experience is also a love-making experience. That every sensual experience is also a love-making experience. And that we can really blend those things free of fear. And I'm telling you, when that happens, all sexual deviancy and misbehavior would really come to an end. You want to talk about just bringing to an end sexual misbehavior. And when I say misbehavior, I just mean like you're intentionally wounding somebody or manipulating somebody to wound them. You understand what I'm saying? Like, cool things will even come of that. Be present in it, but that's empty. And all of those things like rape and things like that would really come to an end if people would really start being able to be present, in tune with their body, unashamed. Rape happens because there's shame and there's fear, and there's, molestation happens because there's shame and there's fear and there's guilt and there's all these things. When you can break that, if you can tear that veil away from somebody, remove that past from somebody, then they don't continue to pass on those same things. Does this make sense to you? Like, in some way, I think humanity, our culture is so afraid of these things, and because of that, they continue to happen. We're going to have to let go of that fear. And so, while none of this exercise is sexual, I'm encouraging you to recognize that you can touch somebody else's body and really worship and see their body as beautiful. I can touch Beth's body and I can touch her shoulder, and if she's really receiving that energy of love, she can feel that in the same way as if I'm touching her vagina. It's going to feel a little bit different, but she's feeling the love. She's feeling the energy from that. And it doesn't have to be, I want to have sex with you, because that's felt. If it's just, I want to have sex with you, that's felt. But what you're releasing is, I love you. Feel my love. I'm one with you. Feel this. I love you. You're releasing energy and love, and this is beautiful. Does this make sense? It's fun for me. Beth had the time. She loved it, clearly. Look at her face. Was anybody else have an experience that they had that they would like to share? Anybody else practice the homework and want to share? Kevin shared his encounter. Go ahead.
I had several experiences, but I know that there's some of my partners, they're just, I'm making love to them,
right,
to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And they're missing the boat. You know, it's like they're missing the point, and it's gets to me sometimes. But I know, like when you're like touching, and I notice there's some people that they shy away very quickly when you touch, and they start giggling. They say, "Oh, that tickles me," you know, like, and I'm just touching the leg or something, and they just want to do the bam thing, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, try to show them there's more, and so they use this as a defense mechanism, saying, "Oh, that's ticklish."
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, learn to not let that freak you out.
Breathe through it.
And enjoy it. You know, I'm not actually tickling. I'm just,
light
just
touch,
touching your body very sexually, and they call that, and then they wince and they say it's tickle. I said, I'm not tickling you, dude. Just calm down. So it's something that I understand what you're saying when you're making love and they're not really there. You know, it does get a little boring sometimes when that happens.
Yeah. I'd encourage you to find one of your partners and say, hey, would you be willing to do this with me? This isn't about sex, but would you be willing to do this with me, and walk through it with them and see, and even from a receiving end, hey, okay, now I want to do this with you, but I want you to just be aware of what we're doing. Would you be willing to do it? And I guarantee you'll find one. I'm sure you know right off the top of your head somebody that would be willing to do that and really play with that and explore that. And I think that would be a powerful, powerful thing. So I'd encourage you to find one that you could really do that with. That it's not about sex. This is just about you receiving love and this energy. And one of the most powerful things that you can do, especially if you're a couple and you've been with somebody for a while, one of the most powerful things you can do is to touch them and it not be sexual. Because what happens a lot of times is touch is reserved for just sexuality. It becomes just about, okay, when we touch each other, and there's been literally moments with Beth where I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. So you begin to associate all that touch and that love with just sex, and you almost start to get to a point sometimes where you're like, I'm not in the mood, like I just don't want to have sex. Because every single human being wants more than that. They really want more than that. And so this is really good for you to be able to experience this thing and know that, hey, we can touch one another and share in this, and it's not about sex. So I'm hoping that some of you that do have a life partner, a mate, a husband, a wife, whatever you call it, that you could really do this with them, and it will change if you practice this, and it's not just a one-time practice where you do it, the more you practice it, the deeper it will become. And I'm going to take you guys deeper into this practice as well, as I just did this week from last week, okay? Anybody else with a question? Anybody willing to do the homework? Kaylee's like, I'm down. Did Johnny, you got a question, or are you saying, yeah, man?
Yeah, is it natural to feel like a bit hesitant? Like doing the exercise sometimes? Like kind of like maybe you're a little afraid or you're not sure?
For sure. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. A lot of that is, first of all, people are very, for many reasons, shame or that hesitancy, that fear will come on, like Kevin was talking about with just touch. People get very ticklish. Oh, it tickles me. A lot of times that tickle really is just a mental like protection mechanism. People get very insecure. A lot of times if you did the exercise last week and just the touch, but now you're going to do it and sitting vulnerably naked before your partner, and you just breathe, and then you do the soul gazing. Sometimes the soul gazing is even harder to do than the actual touch. It's easy to be touched or to touch, but to really look into one another's eyes. When I first looked into Beth's eyes, she starts, it's a little uncut, it's weird. I look into her eyes all the time, but when you set that intentional time apart, when you just do that, it's really powerful, it's really intimate. It's a really intimate thing. And so if you have somebody that you can really do that with, it's powerful. It really is powerful. I wish, you know, these sort of sessions are sessions that are really better in person. Not that I would have you break it down and everybody do it in person, but who knows with me. But they're the reason why is because you have to even be more vulnerable. You can hide behind the camera a little bit. You're hundreds, and some of you are thousands of miles away. You can hide behind the camera. But I'm doing the best I can with being online. So just give me grace in this, okay? That hesitancy, though, Johnny, is normal, and you're going to break through that hesitancy. So sit, be vulnerable. This is the reason why clothes be off. Don't one of you have clothes off and the other one not. Your partners, you should both be completely vulnerable before one another. You're saying, I see you. When you're looking into one another's eyes, soul gaze, and you're saying, I see you. You're beyond the body. I'm about to worship your body. I don't care what shape it is. I don't care what imperfections you think it has. Your body is the temple. Like, it is divine. And I'm going to celebrate it, and I'm going to worship it, and every touch is going to be adoration of this body. And before that, you're looking beyond the body. I see you. I see who fills this body. I'm really looking at who you really are. I see who fills the body. That's a very vulnerable thing to do. And so, yeah, it's very common to have some hesitancy. Just encourage you to break through it. And the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you will break through it. So that's a great question.
Sweet. Thank you, Silas.
You guys practice this, it'll open your world up to touch in a lot of different ways. Smallest touch will become ecstatic. You'll begin to become more aware of the feeling of the breeze upon your skin. You'll become more aware of touch, which means your mind will be locked in with that sensation of touch, the sense, and like a simple breeze will bring you to a place of ecstasy. Somebody walks by, you hug somebody, and you'll find that you're hugging them without fear, and you're holding on a bit longer, and you're really releasing love and energy to that person instead of just patting them on the back and being on your way. Like, things will really begin to unfold in a much deeper way. You'll recognize, if you are able to practice these things, whether it's just by yourself with a mirror, whether it's with a partner, you begin to recognize a lot of things will begin to change in your perception and in the way you feel and are experiencing the present moment. So this is the reason we're doing these things, and we're starting slow here. Some of you might not feel this is a slow start, but we're starting slow here. So I'm hoping that you will practice this by yourself or with your partner, because we are going to continue to move forward. Some of these, again, you don't have to do these sessions. You don't have to, like, if you were in person, I would say you don't have to do these sessions. If you're online, I'm telling you, you don't have to do the homework. I'm encouraging it. I believe not only will you have a blast doing it, you'll have fun. It really will be an ecstatic adventure for you. But it really is going to open your eyes to a whole lot that you didn't realize. It might even open your eyes to some of the fears that you've been hanging on to and identifying in, and you get to let go of those too, which is powerful. All right, any other questions or comments as we wrap up? No, not everything will be you guys being naked. I promise. Some of you might have been thinking, my God, is this what the... No, it's just been 2 weeks. Just relax. Not everything is about being naked. Your breath work is not naked. You can do that clothed or naked. It doesn't matter. I don't care whether you're clothed or naked. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just say again what the order of the homework? Just so
Yep. Sit before your partner or before a mirror, and you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to take 5 of those deep breaths, 5 intentional, really deep breaths, clearing your mind completely, or using I'm aware of the breath, I smile to the breath. Just clearing your mind or coming into a place of singularity, depending upon where you're at in your breath work and that journey of breath work. And then if you're with a partner, you're going to kind of gently touch them, their hands or their legs, and just look into their eyes, soul gaze. So you are going to touch each other a little bit in this, but you're not going to be rubbing a lot. You just make some contact, and then soul gaze for 5 minutes. If you're doing it by yourself, in the mirror for 5 minutes. Really stare into your eyes, see what's beyond the form. And then we get into the form. So all of this should be unclothed when you're, if you can do it, if you're doing it with a partner, get undressed before one another. So it's almost like I'm removing the veil, I'm being vulnerable with you right now. Okay? And so that's a thing all to itself. And then I have a mindfulness app. You can set a timer. What I did was what Beth and I did, and what I'm encouraging you guys to do is 20 minutes. I want you guys to really take the time with the entire body. And so you're going to 10 minutes one way or the other, flip. It doesn't matter what order, whether you start on your back or your front or whatever, but flip. And really, you're releasing love. If you're the receiver, you're feeling the love. If you're doing it by yourself, you're looking in the mirror and you want to feel the touch. And you're experiencing every part of the body. You're not leaving out a part of the body. This is not like a sensual massage where I'm trying to rub around the genitals or something and get the person aroused. Arousal will happen if you're doing it with a partner. It will happen even if it's not your lover or partner. Arousal will still happen. Stephanie knows all about that. As a massage therapist, I'm sure you know all about that. Arousal will happen. That's not the point of this thing, but that's normal. Don't be afraid of it. This is absolutely normal. And so you're touching every part of this being's body, and 10 minutes on one side, 10 minutes on the other. Once that session is done, you're going to get back upright, sit in front of one another in a meditative stance, cross your legs, sit in front of one another, and just look into one another's eyes and close your eyes, breathe, go through the breaths again, and then finish the session. All right? Good. My God, man, y'all should be more excited by this homework. This is amazing homework. Y'all should be super excited about it. Charlotte, Rick, I see your hand raised over there. Can you unmute him? Go ahead.
I've been married like 8 years now. It's like when I first met Charlotte. It's just there's no hanky-panky. Okay, if you want some of that, you got to marry it, right? And Charlotte's always been that touch. And you know what? For a year and a half, okay, probably. Okay, we live in Reading. Okay, and it was just like we said. You know what? We would just touch and everything, and there was no sex. Okay, Charlotte said, no. I wasn't trying to get it. Okay, but I know what you mean because
we were naked.
And we were naked. Okay, but okay, Charlotte, her main thing is touch. So I can lay by her and just touch her, okay? And then you know what? She gets more out of that sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
And having sex, that makes her feel like just on her neck, okay, and just rubbing her body like that. She was in that way all her since I've been with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, I probably wasn't a good person when I was younger, okay? Since I met Charlotte, okay, it's like I never in my mind ever dreamed of having anybody else. You know what I mean? It's so good because the touch, if you start out just like you're saying, at first I get my little work when I listen to you sometimes. How it starts out, okay, because it was out. But what I mean by that is when you kiss somebody on the neck, okay, and you rub their body and everything, that is like, that's lovemaking, okay? That's lovemaking because you know what? You can touch that person and all of a sudden, that person's sleeping. She's snoring, okay? That's how much Charlotte enjoys touch. You're totally right. You know what? I haven't been doing, I do it, but I mean, I should do it a lot more.
I do it.
But Charlotte touches, I mean, she's the touch queen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she loves doing it, but I was quiet tonight and everything. And I just want to tell you that.
Yeah,
you touch
beautiful.
something like that, it's just like you said, you can, all kinds of different things can happen without even touching.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's awesome. It's just like phenomenal. But I think that's why I'm going to tell you, I tell everybody, and you know what? I'm in a really rough business, okay, where a lot of bad things happen. You know, there's a lot of cheaters, okay? But I tell everybody, it's like, you know what? I'll tell you one thing. I would never, Charlotte always teaches me never to say that word, okay? But I love her so much, and I love God so much, okay? I could never, ever even think of, like you're saying, that's how people in this, everybody out there says, oh, look at that one, look at this one, look at that one. I never do that. Because you know what? The bottom line is, if you do, like you said, if you touch, and if you really want that person, and it's like I said, it was hard sleeping in the same bed, okay, and no, you know what I mean, nothing, you know what I mean, for all that time. I used to buy her white roses every week just for purity, and you know what, and it's continued with the touch. Charlotte's just a toucher. And I just want to let you know, everybody, what you're saying tonight.
That was hard for me too.
What you're saying for everybody.
Wait. I said it was hard for me too. I don't only just want to touch. I want to go somewhere too.
Yeah, she want to go somewhere too, but yeah, you gotta get married first if you want it. But the bottom line is, I just want to say is that touch is one thing we've done on our whole marriage. And we're going to try the one sitting down and try it out because I've never done that before. But touch, if you touch somebody first, okay, before, you know what, sometimes, you know what, we've been married for a while, it's just, I like to touch her and hold her and put her to sleep. That's better than anything.
Yeah.
That's better than anything, but I talk too much already, but I just want to tell you.
That's awesome.
It's great. It's great. People sometimes take it the wrong way. It's just like, you know, when you say it, just like you said, you know, people think like, wow, he's being weird. He's saying these weird shit things. And that's where, you know, when we were in Reading, they thought we were in a cult. You know about that church, how they are. They think you're in a cult if you go to that church. But the bottom line is, you know, it was great tonight listening to you. And I'm telling you, like Charlotte said, she doesn't want to sit in front of a mirror and touch herself. She goes, you're going to do it with me, Ricky.
Well, I still recommend doing it with yourself, only because one of the things that we're breaking down when we do it with a partner and when we do it with ourselves is self-shame, is the shame of the body. We're afraid of our bodies. We're afraid if we're a little overweight. I haven't been dieting. I haven't been working out like I was. Put on a little chunky. Like, don't get my six pack anymore. I'm a little ashamed. Or my dick's not but so big. I'm a little ashamed. Or whatever. You know, we got so many different things that we're ashamed of, that people are ashamed of, and part of this thing is being able to be vulnerable and saying, this body is not me. See beyond that. And when you're doing it in front of a mirror, you're having to worship your own body. You're saying, hey, it's like taking care of your house. You're living in a house, you want to take care of it. Well, in this way, you're taking care of your body. And when you're doing it with a partner, it doesn't matter what shape they're in. Shape comes and goes. People add weight, they lose weight. They might be ripped one minute and look like they have the body of a god. The next minute, they look like they got the body of a doughboy. But it's beautiful in its own way, and we're celebrating the body, and we're able to worship. This is a divine being. The whole being is divine. And so part of this is breaking down that fear, if there is fear there, the identity as the body, if there is identity there, the shame, the guilt associated with the body, the shame associated with the body. And so when you're doing it with another, that breaks that down. When you do it in front of the mirror, though, that's a whole different thing. And so hopefully you guys can do both with a partner and in front of a mirror. If you have a significant other, a spouse, if you have a lover and you're able to do it with them, great. Literally, I know a lot of you your partners aren't listening. Charlotte and Rick, you're one of the few exceptions. For a lot of you, your partners might not be in the class. Find a partner. Again, this doesn't even have to be like a significant other, husband and wife. If your husband's like, no, I won't do it with you, and you say, well, I'll find somebody else to do it. I guarantee it might change his tune. But it'll help change his tune quick. Because this is, even for people that have been married a long time, this vulnerability is something they often don't experience. And so they might hear you say, hey, I wanna do this, and go through, and you tell them what you're doing, and they're like, that's weird, I'm not doing that. Wait, so you can have sex with me, but you're not going to do this with me. Like, it's because there's a lot of fear. They have a lot of their own self-shame, their own condemnation, their own fear of their own body. And so this is there to help break some of that stuff down too, as well as just the mindful practice of practicing bringing your mind and body together with the sense of touch. So there's a lot at play here. And so I'm encouraging the homework to be find someone to do it with, but then also do it yourself in front of the mirror. Laura, are you still awake? Okay, just checking. You look like you're sleeping. So anyway, that's the homework. Well, last call for a question. If there is a question, and then we're wrapping up. Anybody else with a question? It can be practical, it can be whatever. Anybody else with a question? Okay, nobody. All right, Charlotte?
I'm not really being vulnerable with Ricky because there's already the openness with him. You know what I'm saying?
Vulnerability is I'm telling you right now, Charlotte, that vulnerability is an exploration. I promise you can be more vulnerable than you've already been.
What I mean is I don't feel uncomfortable with him. I don't have any... I'm more free with him than it would be if I had to find someone and pay him to sit with me. I would probably freeze up. I think
Well,
I could do it.
then find somebody and pay them to do it if you guys can agree upon that. And the reason why that's an extremely vulnerable thing. And if you're afraid, if you would be afraid to have a stranger touch you in that way, or to touch a stranger in that way, because in some way we've perverted the body and we've made the body into this, like there are certain parts, like when you touch somebody, you can touch their shoulder, but you know, like even in churches, like you side hug because women don't want to touch their breasts upon another man. Like that's ridiculous. We've been so afraid of the body. We've been literally programmed culturally and religiously to be ashamed of our own bodies. And so a lot of this is going to break down that fear and that shame, as well as just help you. Like the main point of this is to experience touch and to really be in the same place with touch. I would encourage you guys to practice it. But if you really want to, if you're afraid that you would be it would feel very vulnerable with another person. But I'm going to tell you guys, I want you guys, Charlotte and Rick, I want you guys to really I want you to sit, practice it, but go through the whole thing. Carve out the 30 minutes and really walk through the steps, and then soul gaze. No laughing, no kidding around, you're soul gazing. You're really looking beyond the form. And then go through the whole thing. And if it's not different at all, then we can take you to the next step. But go through that whole thing and really feel, be all in. And what I'm telling you is the more that you recognize that present moment, the more that you sink into it, because it's an exploration, the more vulnerable you will feel, the more vulnerable you become. And you can come to the place where you're so free that it doesn't feel vulnerable, but I guarantee you I can still find things that'll make you vulnerable. And so like what you're saying is it would feel vulnerable if it was with so-and-so or a stranger, if I was paying somebody.
I'm just trying to be honest with you.
No, and I appreciate that.
I don't care to do that. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me. It's not that I wouldn't.
It's not about it doing some, but see, that's the thing. It's not about it doing something for you.
I know that. But that's where I'm at. I'm just telling you where I'm at.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? I don't want to be that way with anyone else.
To be what way? Hold on. But to be what way? What do you mean?
I don't want to be naked with anyone else. I just don't want to.
Then don't be. Then don't be.
It doesn't.
Why? Let me ask you a question. Why do you say that? Why would you say I don't want to be naked with somebody else?
I'm my person. Maybe it's my.
No, hold on. But I'm not going to let you get away with it. Why is not I just don't want to? That's not a why. Why do you think? Explore for a minute why you think that would make you uncomfortable and why you think you would not want to do that.
It doesn't feel for me, in the way I see it right now, where I'm at in my life, as any that I would even it just makes me nauseous. I wouldn't want to do it.
So all I'm expressing to you is, and I think I've been there before. I think probably you might not be the only one here that feels that way. I
don't want to touch anyone else in their genital parts or anything. I don't want to.
Right.
I can touch them everywhere else, but I don't want to touch them there.
Right. But so this is what I'm trying to explain. So let me talk for a second. This is what I'm trying to explain. We have been culturally twisted. Our minds have been culturally twisted to pervert our bodies. And because of that, our culture is perverted and has a lot of sexual misconduct. When we take away the perversion of the body and we see it as beautiful, the sexual misconduct comes to an end. And so what happens is we've been so persuaded, our minds have been so that's not washed because it's not cleaned, but it's been so programmed, conditioned to see the body in a certain way. And that's why I'm saying to you that we can, that's normal. What you're talking about, the vast majority of people feel that same way. I'll touch people other places, but I'm not touching down there. That's bad. That's wrong. We shouldn't do that, or I don't feel comfortable with that. And all I'm saying is this: you don't have to do it. First of all, you can completely opt out of that. You don't have to do it. My suggestion was the homework is to do it with a partner. But
I don't want to, and I think that there's a lot of things that I don't want to do.
Sure.
It's not just with the body.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it.
And it's my choice. I mean, if I don't want to grind it, it's not because I'm changing a body. It's just where I'm at and what I prefer. Period.
Okay.
I don't like to do a lot of things, but I do them. I mean, I could actually do that, but maybe I would enjoy it. But right now, I don't even want to delve there. So.
That's absolutely fine. That's why I said from the very beginning, you don't have to. And you and Rick don't even have to do it together if you want. If you want to do it with him, you can do it with him. If you don't want to do it with him, you don't have to. You guys are free. When it doesn't matter whether you're in person at an event or whether you're online. You are absolutely 100% free to feel however you want to feel, and you are absolutely free to participate or not participate in whatever. I'm still gonna openly share from a place of flow with you guys. You guys can take what you want, receive what you want, or not.
I never talk, and I never interject because you always talk. Well, not always. It seems like you're running over me. When I try to talk, I'm trying to share and be vulnerable with you.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm listening.
But I don't think you're listening. So
why not?
I want you to keep bringing that out. Because the more you say stuff and the more you talk about it, and the more, you know what I'm saying? That's just not where I'm at this moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Be where you are.
I'm not closing you off or anything.
Yeah.
Nor do I want you to stop. Okay, I'm just saying, it's just...
That's not where you are. Yeah, I get you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and be exactly where you are. I never want you to feel like I'm running over you. That's why I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm simply saying I hear exactly where you are and what you're saying. But I also am going to talk to the entire class and say, okay, this is also why a lot of times we feel the way that we feel, or what we've been culturally conditioned to feel or experience. I'm not even saying that that's necessarily what you're experiencing. What you're experiencing can be your own experience. I'm not, if you feel like I was running over you, I apologize. That was not my intent at all. I'm absolutely hearing you, and you are absolutely 100% free to express, to practice the things, to do the homework or not do them, I appreciate you sharing that and telling me how you feel. I would much rather you tell me how you feel than hide it and protect it.
But I respect anyone that can do that. I'm not judging anybody.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Every one of you is in a different place, aren't you? Every one of you is in a different place consciously, what you're experiencing, what you would be willing to participate in or not. But I can promise you I'm going to continue to stretch those things. Yeah, and that's not intended to hurt or to say you're not in a good spot. You are in a perfect place. Whether you do these things or not, you are 100% perfect. So I'm just glad you're here. And if you do the homework with your partner, like in your case, if you guys do it with one another, I'm encouraging it. But you don't even have to do it, you can do it with however you want or not do it. Because there's going to be lots of homework that you will want to do, and maybe some of it that you won't do, or some of it that you don't want to do. All of it's fine. But I am going to continue to bring it to you. So.
You gave us options, so either way I get to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of options.
You have it open for all of us to have a way to do it.
100%. 100%. There is a way for every single person to get more in touch with their senses, be more in touch with their feeling, bring their body and mind closer together and be more present. There's 100%. This is an art form. This is an artistic expression. Some people like painting outside of the lines. Some people like painting inside the lines. Some people like doing the number to number, coloring and drawing. Some people like sculpting. Some people like, there's all kinds of different artistic expressions. So however you guys want to express yourself, I promise within the art of mindfulness, there is a way for you to sink deeper into it, to explore it more, and to express yourself. So it'll be good. And it's beautiful that you guys are all here. Beautiful. All right, everybody good? Know what your homework is? All right. Rick?
No, nothing. I have nothing.
Okay, awesome.
I'm just smiling.
Beautiful. Well, all right, listen, I love you guys. For those in the mentorship, I'll see you on Wednesday night. For everybody else, I'll see you next Sunday, if not before. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. Good night, guys. Have a great night.